Welcome back, everybody, where I've learned that there are a lot of note-taking applications. Are you aware of this, Paul?
Yeah, thanks to your simple text thing yesterday, I
Hmm.
spent much of yesterday morning researching this. And I'm not sure what you found. If I was going to switch to another note-taking app, it would have to be Markdown based
Yep.
natively. And the thing, simple text looks wonderful, but it doesn't actually support like normal
Hmm.
Control B for bold, Control I for
Yeah.
italics. I want something that looks like that is very appealing to me, but
So,
it needs to be native. Go,
so
please.
now this application I've been playing with this morning, and I've been in contact with the developer. It's not
Mhm.
perfect for my needs yet, but this one's very interesting. It's not cheap either.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I walked away from the ones that were paid. I think I know
yeah.
which one you're going to say.
There's one called Standard Note, which
Yeah.
is the big
Yep.
benefit to this one, at least for me, is that you can select like OneDrive, and then it will actually sync through OneDrive, and
Yep.
it has a whole bunch of features. I'm not sold on it yet because I'm like you. I like that really minimalistic, and actually, I might end up using Simple Note, which is I didn't realize was made by Automatic, which I believe makes a ton of stuff for WordPress. They make
Yeah.
Jetpack.
Oh, right. Because it does have a publish functionality that you can, but it doesn't see. You have to support the basics: heading styles,
Oh, sure,
bold
sure, sure. This is
italics, and
not for everybody.
yeah,
The
it's just
because I don't write in Markdown like you do. So it for me, I just need something that's purely text.
well, but you do actually. If you if you use API text, you are writing in Markdown. But the point is, you're not writing the codes, right?
Yeah.
It's not 1979. You can, like I said, you can use the keyboard shortcuts, or usually there's a little
Hmm.
toolbar with the little buttons, like as you would expect. What we're really looking for is something that, to the end user, would be a rich text editor,
Hmm.
but what it's really creating is plain text with, in this case, Markdown
Yeah.
format. That determines the styles. Um,
What is
I,
the heady
I,
doing these days? We should.
yeah, God knows what he uses. To
No, no,
write,
no.
you
We
mean?
should get him to make one. I mean, he built Tweetin. Why can't he build?
Oh, that's okay.
Like,
Well, I mean, by the way, simple text, if it was only Markdown format,
hmm.
it requires a context shift, which I don't like. And it supported those keyboard, and all you saw was the rich text version of
Yeah.
the document, whatever you want to call it. It would be perfect. I could see doing that because I got to be honest. I don't know about your use of like OneNote, for
Hmm.
example. I don't do a lot of. The only thing I do is I do as far as notes, it's mostly text. It's hyperlinks, right?
Yep.
And when if I have a virtual meeting, which I actually do all the time, so maybe HP has a thing
Hmm.
and they have a presentation, I take a screenshot of that window, whatever it is. It's like Zoom or something, and I paste that into the notes as I'm taking notes, right? So I have the reference of what I'm taking notes to.
Hmm.
They'll often send the slide deck in a PDF or something later, and other companies. It's not just HP, but other companies. Um, and I guess that would be the minimum, but we're not talking. What I just
Yeah.
described was really basic, you know. Um,
Yeah. It's
yeah, it shouldn't be hard to do.
So the one thing that we need to be, well, at least for myself, clarify here, because some people are going to
Hmm.
write and be like, well, OneNote is great. And OneNote is good. The challenge, at least for, I don't know, I don't want to speak for Paul, but at least for myself, we work in
Hmm.
very isolated buckets, right? We write a post, and then that thing is pretty much done for
Yeah,
perceivably until you need to reference it again, which could be 1 year, 10 years, 50 years. We don't work in this world other than like writing a book where it's a big project where you have to keep referencing it, going back in and out, which is where OneNote does very well if you have an ongoing perpetual project. But for us, it's a lot of, at least for myself, I use these apps for just purely writing posts and then
yeah.
maybe
I mean,
searching for them and whatnot.
I had just brought up OneNote because I have to do the
Yep.
notes for Windows Weekly today. So, because again, I'm kind of compulsive, whatever. I created this notebook in 2011,
Hmm.
whenever Mary Jo came on board, I guess, or soon thereafter. I don't know. There's a notebook for each year, or section, I guess we'll call it, 2011 through 2018. Within each
Hmm.
of those sections is a page for each show. And we do pretty detailed show notes. We do tips and app
Yep.
picks and other things and all that kind of stuff. So I actually have it, like it's
Yeah.
there. It's like this living record. Is that important? Actually, in this case, I would say no. And for
Hmm.
example, when you did the show notes for First Ring Daily, the way you set it up was we had kind of a Monday through Friday. Remember we used to have goofy names for each day? Like
yeah.
I don't remember the exact names, but Throwback Thursday was probably the Thursday one. And when I saw that, I sort of assumed, well, we're going to do one of these for every week, right? But then, you started overwriting the original one as we went back, the following week or whatever. And I was like, what are you doing? And you're like, why would we ever keep those? And that's a good point. Why would we keep those? It's pointless. So it depends, but I think when I look at OneNote, I see the same thing that I see when I look at Microsoft Word, which is it's a battleship of functionality. Yeah. It will solve any problem you have. You can record things and do transcriptions and link to other things. It's all this stuff. It's crazy. And for all of the people that are going to write in or call in or whatever and say, hey, I need that. That's the thing. This is the problem Microsoft faces with all of the products it makes, Windows, Office, whatever. It does a million different things, and every one of those million things has some users that need that thing. But most of us just need 5 things.
Yep.
5 really basic things. And the point I had made, I think yesterday or the day before, about word processing and how it's just too much is I think you could apply to note taking. And so, like I said, I always reevaluate things. You triggered me doing what you did too yesterday, which was look at stuff. I came across the same thing. It was basically a kind of a simple note type thing that would sync to any cloud service, basically, like OneDrive, Dropbox, whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool. But it was like $4 a month or $60 a year or whatever the prices were. And I was like, I don't know. I don't mind paying for stuff. That's not the point. But I already have something I'm using that works, and it's like, whatever. Right. Changing has its own cost to it, But yeah, the conclusion it's interesting you brought this topic up because the conclusion I came to was it is inevitable that I will move to something Markdown based for notes. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
And and there are even things like sticky notes in Windows 10, which is not Markdown based, but it's a very simple thing. It's available on your desktop. They've now made it available on mobile via OneNote, I think, actually. But eventually there will be a native Notes app, a sticky notes app. For most people, that kind of thing is enough. And if you have some kind of voice thing integration, like if you want to make a list, like a shopping list that you're going to use every week or whatever, I think that's enough. And I can't speak for you, but I think this is true. There's something to this minimalist app style. It's like a good enough kind of a thing. It has to meet a criteria. And all of ours are a little different. But I don't need all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like Microsoft to tackle these problems, by the way.
And for clarification's sake, when Paul and I talk about that stuff, the problem with that stuff is WordPress defines what stuff we can use. Because if we do some fancy formatting offline, then drop it into WordPress and it doesn't work, that's a major issue. You got to remember that's the end all solution is WordPress. But anybody who's written in WordPress enough knows that you don't write in WordPress because you eventually get bit by the page refreshing, whatever, and you'll lose the post.
You will be bitten by that. Yeah, I would never do that. I see people doing that at shows. Like obviously, a lot of people who do the stuff we do will sit around them in a press room or something, and you look over and you can see a WordPress form, and it's either modified heavily or not. But you're like, oh boy, you're on conference Wi-Fi, buddy. That's not going to go well.
Yep, you hit save, and then it says 504 or whatever. You can't connect, and you just lost all of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, or some of it. Like you come back and you got like part of it, and that's in some ways even more frustrating. Also, a direct result of the conversation we had yesterday about simple text, simple notes, simple note.
Yeah, I actually installed it on my phone. I really like this little app.
No, I do too. But I can't use it if it doesn't do formatting.
Right. I know you're very heavy on the format. See, I do all my formatting in WordPress, mostly because I don't type in Markdown, which if I would, force myself into that habit of doing that, then maybe that would be a deal breaker, but
in an interest, again, I'll give you the credit for this because, like I said, you inspired me to kind of rethink things, and I had just recommended Typora to you privately and to the world publicly. I think on Windows Weekly last week, and I have it installed, but I don't actually use it. I've been using Markdown Pad, and I was like, you know what? Like, why do I write in code? Like, why do I even do this? Like, I can use simple word processing. Control B, Control I, that kind of thing, and like, why not just use a normal application? So this week I have been using Typora since you talked about this thing, and It's funny. I noticed a couple of quirks, like it pastes into WordPad. I'm sorry, into WordPress fine. When you hit publish, I can't figure out why, but it creates a space between the first paragraph and the second paragraph. It does it every single time. So I've looked at the code to try to figure out what HTML code is in there causing that, and I can't. But what I did discover, and you could go look at this, you can, not everyone, but you can. Well, actually, maybe everyone can. I don't know what it puts on the website, but it creates a bunch of extra like span tags in there. And yeah, I don't want that. You know what I mean? Like I want clean. And the one thing about Markdown Pad, which is kind of a technical tool and it is aimed at developers probably, is that the output is, it doesn't add any extraneous bullshit.
Yep.
Like if you do, you can do Control B if you want, but if you do that, it puts the correct tag. It's perfect. There's nothing extra. If you look at the thing I paste from Markdown Pad into WordPress, it's completely clean. But the Typora thing isn't. And so because I do publish to WordPress, like that's pretty much my primary outlet. It is literally my primary outlet for writing. I mean, I actually can't use it, right? Unless I can figure out a way to clean up the CSS or, well, it's not CSS. It's whatever it is. I don't know how it does it. But now for people listening to this who don't publish to WordPress, yeah, it's great. And it is plain text, you know? I mean, you're never going to not be able to read it.
Yeah. Speaking of things that we've dwelled on too much, but this is not in any way related.
Yeah, but you know what? Isn't it fair to say that people like us and people who are probably listening to this do have this? Yeah, it's kind of this weird tech compulsive mind streak thing. I don't know what to call it. It's we do obsess over these things. Yeah, how we're broken.
I love Appy Text. The problem is that it's not available everywhere. It's only available through the Windows Store. And there's often times where like one of the things I was trying to solve that Appytext does not allow me to do is that I go pick up my kid every day, but sometimes I'm just sitting in the parking lot for 15 minutes and I want to start writing something or just jotting down notes that I will turn into a post. And what the Simple Note or whatever the heck it's called allows me to do is I can just start writing on my phone, come home on the PC, open it up, and it's right there, right where I left off.
I mean, you could still use Simple Note for that purpose and then just paste it into Appytext, right?
Yeah, but then that's
I know.
But anyway, so
I mean, maybe. Sorry, I'm sorry.
I was going to say what I spent far too long trying to do last night. So as you remember, I replaced some of my outside lights with Hue lights, and I also have an internet connected garage door. And so I had this really dumb idea, and I got pretty close to getting it to working. I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be neat that when the garage door opens, maybe those lights blink or turn a different color? And so
like you're flying into an airport and the lights and like kind of
thank you. Thank you. I was like, oh man, like when it's going up, that could be green, and when it's going down, that could be red.
Totally on board with this. Love it.
Yeah, I spent like 3 hours trying to get this crap to work, and I'm like getting frustrated. My wife asked me, she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just trying to get this to work." She goes, "You're an idiot. Why
does the garage door keep going up and down?"
She's like, "The garage goes up, the garage goes down. We don't need landing lights." I was like, "Yeah."
I mean, honestly, if you could. On garage door up, always turn on the lights at least. I mean, I don't know where your lights are, but we have 4 lights in the eaves above the garage doors. For us, that would make tons of sense. Of course, our garage door opener is, I believe, a Craftsman from 1979 or something. But the ability to actually turn those, that would be really. We live in a really dark neighborhood. There are no streetlights where I live. It's like pitch black here.
Yeah,
so my daughter might come home at night.
I know we dabbled talking about this, I think, it was probably about 8 months ago. So in January, we're going to meet with an architect, and I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to do at least some form of home construction on our house, mostly putting on like a small master bath and closet, and the way our house is situated, that actually kind of extrudes into our front yard. I'll have to map this up so people understand it. And then, so think of it this way. So my house looks like this, right? Rectangle.
Yep.
Sure. On this side over here is the garage, but it extends out 7.5 feet from the rectangle. So what we're going to do on the other side, we're thinking, is extend it out 7.5 feet, and then it's like by 20 feet, and make half of that a small master bathroom and half of it a small walk-in closet. So then the house matches, and then in between, it would connect with an A-frame and make a nice porch area. Yeah. This is a very long conversation about me putting in more Hue lights that are going to be.
Cool. Yeah. Yep.
be synced up, and that's how I got thinking about this. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna, again, unless they come back and this is like $100,000, which it shouldn't be, but
You know, I
never
often
know.
anyway. Those things are inflated. Like if there was some way that you and some family members or friends had the capacity just to do this work yourself, it would be amazingly inexpensive once you own land to build something on it. But
Oh yes.
once you involve contractors, it just escalates.
Oh no, you're totally spot on. When we remodeled our kitchen, when we bought the house, we got quotes that were in the $80,000 range to basically gut and do it, and we did it ourselves for about 30.
We did a partial renovation of our kitchen here, which cost a shitload of money actually. But
Yeah.
we did a renovation of our small kitchen back in our previous house, and the memory my wife and I still both talk about every time this comes up is in the 90s, like the mid 1990s, our friends in Phoenix did a complete renovation of their kitchen, which cost them at that time $50,000. And we were like, are you out of your freaking minds? Like our house, which to that point was the same size as their house, cost $99,000 when we bought it. They spent 50 just on a kitchen, which is not as big as the kitchen I have in my house here. So I don't know where that money, like, we haven't been there in a while, but when we go to Phoenix, we still go to the house. Like, actually, now we don't. Actually, they just moved. Anyway, the point is, we've been there many times, but the times we've gone there, it's been like, where did the money? Where did this go?
Yeah.
Did you stuff money in the chimney? How did the? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so we'll see. We've got a rough idea what we think it will cost. I bet doing all this is going to be like 40 to 50. That's what I'm hoping, because it's not too many square feet, and we'll see. We're just using some ballpark math from when we had contractors out before. If it's in that price range, we'll probably end up doing it.
Carpenters, tile guys, probably, depending what the floor is, electrician, plumbing, because you're talking about a master bath. Like this could, it could get ugly.
No, I know. The scary part is the bathroom. That's where you can dump a whole bunch of money, but it's going to be a small bathroom. It's only going to be like about 6 by 6, so it's not. We'll see. Well, if I'm crying at the end of January, we'll all know why.
No one should care about this, least of all you. But it's weird because I was just talking to my wife about this morning. Like, I have this very shirt right here. In fact, I bought a bunch of these from Amazon. They're cheap, but when you dry them, they shrink.
Nice.
So So I asked so I bought some more, and I said, listen. When you do the laundry, if you don't mind, could you air dry these because they shrink? She goes, yeah. She goes, I could, or you could start doing your own laundry because you've just added another job that I have to do. And aside from that conversation, we have an enormous house here that is way bigger than we need. It's stupid. I never intended to buy such a monstrosity. It's a family thing, you know the story. But it's laid out so poorly. Like, we have 3 rooms upstairs, 3, that are not being used by any human being. They're just sitting there empty in my home. But the laundry is squeezed into some tiny corner here on the first floor. There's no room to put up a drying rack. It's just in a hallway, sort of. So it's like I said to my wife, like for the second time in the past 7 days, by the way, if you said, here's some graph paper, and you have the same square footage to deal with that we have in this home, design a house. We could make something so efficient. And this thing is so stupidly laid out and stupidly proportioned. And my dad did some of it. Like, we have a gigantic master bath with a huge walk-in closet that we have is literally one full because we don't have enough clothes. And my wife said, the laundry should be in our bed in that master bath, and that's where you could put your drying rack because there's plenty of room, and our clothes could still be in there because there's plenty of room. But instead, we have like a closet thing out in the hallway down here, so you got to go up and down the stairs with a basket, and stupid. I don't know. I'll never do this, but I'd love to design a house someday. And with this in my head, because you'll do it if you do this thing you're talking about, you'll have a chance to do this, right? And you have whatever life experiences you have now living in a home and what works and what doesn't, and you'll, make some decisions based on that.
Yeah, I had a really good joke lined up that your house is a Google Pixel 3.
Like, you have to Google, right? It's got this awkward thing that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's no, every house in this neighborhood is like, it's just like a.
Because when we were going to do this last year, we were looking at adding, I don't know, something like 600 to 800 square feet to the house. and then quickly realized that I would need to sell a lot of books to make that happen. A lot more books than probably are people on Earth. And so to do this other one edition, it's only like 150 square feet. So it's not a massive, but it's kind of repurposing some. We'll find out. I'm already prepared to be let down by it being too much money, but.
Well, I mean, if our experience is any guide, and this isn't just what we did here, but at our previous home as well, like everything we've ever done has ended up taking longer and costing more. And you kind of look back on some stuff and you're like, and like we spent all this money in the electrical, and my wife was she was freaked about the electrical stuff. But the interesting thing is she went back to Boston a couple weekends ago. She stayed with a friend of ours they had just built their own home. And so they had a chance. She's walking around this house like, what? Like the decisions these people made are insane. And but what she sees, like as you see in everyone's home, it's like a white switch plate with like a kind of a beige switch or beige plugs, like mismatched things and plugs that are different heights and everything. And she goes, I'm still not happy with like how much we spent, but I got to say, like looking at other people's homes, like our stuff is clean and perfect and the same color, same, it's all lined up and, like there's, I don't know. This is not. I don't know what I'm talking about. I can't justify how much we spent on that.
We're just going to rename this episode "This Old House." I used to watch that. My dad used to watch that show. I think it was on PBS. I think it's still on.
Yeah, Bob Vila, I guess.
Yeah, Bob Vila.
Norm, I think, was his the actual guy that did all the work.
Yeah, he was like the carpenter type guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My uncle lived next to a house that was done over by those guys, and so they had to deal with that for 6 months. But we visited a couple times and got to see that in action. I also met Bob Vila. Now that I'm thinking about it, thanks to Microsoft.
Yeah. Was it when they were launching Microsoft, Bob?
No.
Oh.
Trying to remember what it was. There was something. I don't remember why. It was also like I can't remember why. It was something to do with it was probably like an early version of a smart home kind of thing, maybe associated with CES. And there was a woman designer from Colorado, Oregon, who was designing like smaller spaces for people back before there was a tiny home craze. This might have been like the very late 1990s. It was a long time ago. Something to do with new ways of technology in homes that today would seem laughable, I'm sure. I don't know.
Well, Paul, I have 3% battery life left. It's,
I understand what you're trying to say.
You got any other quick closing thoughts before this whole thing turns off?
No, but you'll be amused. I kept this a secret from you. I don't know if you saw this on the site today.
Oh, yes, I did. I know what you're talking about.
I thought this would amuse you desperately, that I did buy an iPhone, and the iPhone I bought was an iPhone 7. So I know there's been some speculation that now that Google Fi works with the iPhone, maybe Paul would be switching to an iPhone or whatever. That's not going to happen. Also, this phone is laughably small. I don't know how you use this for so long. My hand like encases it. Like I have a hard time holding it and pressing buttons at the same time. Like it's
I like how we end with a personal attack.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I mean, it's just so small. Like I guess I always. You kind of wonder, like, because I've used the bigger phones for a while. It's like, could I use one of these? And like, I have to say now, I know, like, no, I would not want to use this. But it's fine for my purposes, and that's good. And it's good for testing Google Fi now on this thing, so that's good too. It was relatively inexpensive compared to buying a new iPhone. Obviously, it was like 1/3 the price. But it's fine. It's fine. I also had like just in a goofy way, because I bought all the Apple stuff and then returned it all. I had to pay. I bought some of it on like an Apple credit thing, and so I had to make one payment. So I actually had like a credit. So I had like a balance of negative $50 or whatever it was. So I used that money to buy a case. So I guess
that's how they get you.
Yeah, they got me in the end, I guess.
Interesting. Well, I probably will go read that, because I'm going to watch this closely. Which, by the way, I see that you have the Outlook icon. I still haven't gotten the new design yet, which makes me sad.
I didn't either. So I just got the phone. I'm like, obviously I'm going to get the new Outlook. No, I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I'm very close to confirming that I'm probably going to be using Outlook.com and Outlook Mobile for mail going forward. So literally this week I failed at it, though. I took the awful step. I had started forwarding all my Gmail mail again to Outlook.com, just like my normal Gmail. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to do the paul@thurrott.com, which is also Gmail based.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get it to work. So I went to send a test email, one of the first things you do.
Yep.
As paul@thurrott.com from outlook.com, and it failed. And I'm going to have to go back and look at it again. But literally I was expecting, yesterday or today to be able to be like, hey, by the way, I decided this is what I'm going to do. We'll see how that goes.
Well, as the battery percentage ticks down, folks, that wraps it up for today. We'll be back on Full Juices tomorrow. And what is tomorrow, Thursday? Yeah, have yourselves a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll catch you tomorrow.